Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Inspiration with E. I'm Ericka, author of Inspiration with E and Authenticity Speaks. And you're joining me in a myriad of conversations I'm having this month in honor of Suicide Awareness Month. September is Suicide Awareness Month. And so this is my second effort. I'm incredibly honored to have my guests with me tonight. I have none other than Ihsan Hines of MBKCares. It's a nonprofit. He's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. And Ms. Linda Diaz is with us of Lauryn's Law. Not Lawrence, Lauryn's. I had to do my
That's
homework
right.
there.
Yes.
Mhm. And so she's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. But first, I am going to pray. And so if that's not your thing, I completely respect it, but I'm just going to ask God to bless this moment. So Father, I invite you in. I ask God that you would speak through me, that nothing I do or say offends anyone. I pray for healing, comfort, and peace. Be glorified and be with all of us tonight. No technical issues at all, and that anyone who will hear this at a later date will know that there is hope. That is my sincere prayer. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So we are going to just talk. It's going to be a very laid back setting, but I do think it's important for those that are new to just getting to know me, to know how I got to be a part of suicide awareness. My journey is a little unique in that I personally have not dealt with suicidal ideation, nor have I lost anyone very close to me. It's always been a friend of a friend. The abbreviated version of my story is that I'm a singer-songwriter. And a long time ago, there was a scripture that said, ye shall live and not die, but declare the works of the Lord. And God told me to write a song about it. And I did not obey. That would be just the most awesome right there plot twist, but I didn't write it. And then probably about a year later, I was at a prayer conference and there was a woman praying and she ran past me and she doubled back. And this is a true story. She said, ye shall live. God said, write the song. So that's the Cliff Note version. And in the song, it simply says that suicide is not the answer, nor depression a way of life. I found it a little challenging kind of navigating in these circles because I don't have the cool kid card of the clinical training, but at the same time, I don't have personal experience nor lived experience. And so I began to see how else I can help, how else I can be supportive to those who needed assistance because the burden was so strong. And so volunteering became the way for me to do it. And it was something as simple as just doing my homework, reading more about the language of suicide, the do's and don'ts, learning how to be sensitive, not presumptuous. Ask how someone is doing, pause, and actually wait for the answer. Imagine that. And then I served as a hotline crisis counselor for a couple of years at the North Texas Suicide and Crisis Center. And I worked different shifts, but it wasn't until I worked a Sunday after church and to be on the crisis hotline with people who were suicidal calling me on their way home from church, I knew that we were missing it. And then we all have the loved ones who are suffering from mental illness. But in our communities, we don't have the proper language and we tease and we poke fun. But I want to make it a safe space, non-judgment zone to have those kinds of questions answered. And so if you feel uncomfortable for any reason, no judgment here. If you thought you were ready for this conversation and you decide, oh, you know what, I'm not ready, that's okay. Even now, if you feel as though you may be struggling, 1-800-273-TALK if you're in the States. If you're a person who prefers to text, 741-741, text hello to the Crisis Text Hotline. And lastly, if you're doing this from outside of the United States, You can Google World Suicide Hotlines. So we're going to go ahead and be quiet just for a moment, because there are people who have lost loved ones to suicide, and we want to be respectful of them. So I'm pausing just for a brief moment in their memory. As we begin tonight, we're going to open up with Ihsan Hines. I'm looking down because I do not want to miss one word in his bio. It says here that Ihsan Hines, AKA Purpose, is a spoken word artist, rapper, and motivational speaker from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As the founder and president of the nonprofit organization My Brother's Keepers Cares, My Brother's Keeper Cares, he is committed to helping others discover hope during difficult times. Ihsan's inspiration comes from a very painful experience in which he lost his younger brother, Atif Hines, to suicide. He now desires to express compassion towards people with hope that others will learn to rely on God. His messages express love, encouragement, wisdom, joy, and even pain that others can relate to and appreciate. Living on purpose is his message, and love is his method. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be really fancy and press some buttons, add a pin, and then I digress and get out the way. So this way, my brother Ihsan can have the floor.
Thank you, Ericka, and
So
thank
welcome.
you, Linda. I appreciate you and the mindfulness that you had to our own experiences, but also the people who are going to consume this content. I just hope that it is a peaceful conversation. Not quite sure where the direction we're going to go, but I am grateful that we had this opportunity to get together and talk. Tomorrow is Suicide Prevention Week, I'm sorry, this is Suicide Prevention Month, but tomorrow in particular, September 10th, is Suicide Awareness Day. And I don't want to take for granted that there are people who are triggered by certain things around this time of the year. People are triggered by certain things as we go into the holiday season or just into the workload of being busier while school and stuff is in session with being parents or whatever, or even students going back to college campuses, high schools, whatever. So I want to be mindful and also just encouraging, hopefully, that everybody out there struggles. We all do struggle in different ways. It doesn't always show in harmful ways. Sometimes we carry it differently and the symptoms are different, but we all have adversity and none of us are exempt from the human experience. So thank you for this opportunity to get together. And I pray that something peaceful and healing comes out of this experience for others.
You're so welcome. Ihsan, I do want to give you room to just speak before we bring Miss Linda on. I just want you to share your heart. Tell us a little bit about your story and your background, especially as it relates to Atif. We'd love to learn more about him.
Okay. So the image behind me is actually a painting in the likeness of Atif. Atif was my younger brother. We were two boys raised by my mother, her only two children. And we're actually 14 years and 1 week away from the day that Atif passed away. Atif passed away August 31st, 2007 from suicide. And a lot of things changed in my life. A lot of things changed in my family's life and in the community around him. His friends, all kinds of people were impacted by it. But it opened up a conversation to understand mental health better. It also showed me some things that I had going on inside of me where I started struggling with depression, started becoming more aware of some of my own battles that were inside and some of the things that my community didn't have resources to help me with at the time. Through it became an opportunity to try to like continue his legacy. So I kept having these different concerts at Love Park in Atif's memory for several summers. And I started realizing as I was doing the concerts and being invited out to different suicide prevention initiatives that I was reliving the funeral, which wasn't really helpful for me. And I also realized like a lot of the things that were going on for suicide awareness, be it in Delaware or different places I would go to, There would be places where I would come in feeling one way and leave out feeling heavier than I walked in. And I said, you know what, that can't be the end of it, because the people who are coming here to hear me, although they need to hear about my pain to identify, they also need to leave feeling some sort of hope. So I believe that around the time, I think it was like 2010, I decided that I wanted to stop living his funeral and start, even while keeping his legacy alive, thinking about the people who I'm talking to and their experiences, because they don't know Atif. So although they can identify and hear about him, they have to deal with their own struggles and strongholds and all kinds of things. So I need to be compassionate about what they're dealing with. And through that became these opportunities to start connecting in different ways. Instead of just having concerts in memory of Atif, how can I start learning about what other people are dealing with? So I started partnering with other people that will feed the homeless. We started doing some different initiatives at the local libraries to have conversations about mental health and suicide awareness. And then last year during the pandemic, MBKCares became an official nonprofit. So it's been a process of healing for myself. I've been suicidal before. I've had a suicide attempt and plan as recent as 2018 that I had to overcome, and other people in my network helped me to get through it. Therapy has helped me through it. So many things. I can go on and on with all this for a while, but just know that my experience with losing a brother to suicide, and then my own experience with having suicidal thoughts and plans, has me at a place now where I'm fighting for my life, but I'm also trying to reach back and let other people know about the light that I found to get where I'm at now, which is nowhere better than anyone. It's just I'm finding some light. Can't hear you, Ericka.
Thank you. At least I'm consistent, right? With these buttons. Thank you for letting me know. Ihsan, you said so much. One of the things that stuck out was how you felt leaving heavier than when you came in. I wonder where that was stemming from. Do you think that sometimes it was just the fact that you missed him, or that it was you were in the process of still processing it yourself, but you were hopeful? Where do you think that comes from? Because I know that kind of varies for people, right?
Right. I think that it came from some might had to do with like the organization of the different initiatives I was going to.
Mhm.
So there were people bringing in survivors of suicide. One, I was still raw in my brother's death. This is like 2008, 2009. He had just died in '07. I
Got it.
hadn't been in consistent therapy, and I was dealing with a lot of calamity myself. The week my brother died, my girlfriend at the time got pregnant with our daughter. The very before my brother's funeral, she got pregnant, and I wound up going through other transitions that had to do with like losing my brother, but then also a failed relationship, an expectant father of my second child, and just dealing with my own battles that had nothing to do with that loss, just
Mm.
things that may have been hereditary going on. So that was going on. So I was still raw, but I also realized like people who were coming out to these events, they were still raw in it. They had just lost somebody a year ago or whatever. So they were bringing grieving people out to speak to masses of people to
Mhm.
understand while we were raw in our healing. And I think that what was going on, not that it was anything wrong with it, but it was more so just putting people around who were heavy in their grief, and putting them around people who may be very hopeful and already in a place of uplifted spirits, so that it could bring that room down. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There needs to be a place to vent and express and keep the legacy of our loved ones going on. But I think that the urgency to throw people in front of people while they were still raw in their experience, it created an environment that was just unbalanced. So what I found now, there's rooms now where people are in it who are new to the experience and people who have been seasoned in it. And I think that creates a more healthy environment so that people can see there's different phases to healing and grief.
I like that, different phases. One of the things I say is that I believe healing comes in many forms. One of the things you said is that it's a little bit too raw. I noticed that on applications, when people go to volunteer, that's one of the questions. Have you lost someone? How long ago has it been? And sometimes the minimum, I think, is 3 years. Some organizations a little bit longer because they want to give people, time to grieve. What type of support networks do you find work best for people who think that enough time has passed? in terms of maybe group counseling or individual therapy is one of the things you made mention of, which sometimes in communities of color is kind of like frowned upon. But I think that it's incredibly necessary.
It is. I think that it can come from a variety of places. When we opened up today, we started with prayer. There's
Mhm.
faith-based support that's, I think, very, very relevant. And even if it's not from a community of faith, I think just having some inner faith, thinking about higher power, thinking about God, will bring you up out of places because it helps you to take your mind off of what you see at times. And
Right.
even if you can't take your mind off it, it helps you to cry and get things off that are necessary at times. The supports that I found that have been helpful are some that were created within my own experience, where people who were dealing with similar grief got together and we started having meetings and conversations at the library, local
Mhm.
libraries. And so we created some of it ourselves. But some of the things that I developed interest in and gained huge support from were the EAP program at my job. The Employee
Yes.
Assistance Program is the EAP. And they actually connected me with a counselor when I was very hesitant and reluctant to start it. They connected me with a counselor free of charge for 3 visits so that I can get a chance to see what therapy was like and make a connection with that therapist and then
Mhm.
continue on with it with my copay for my health insurance if I chose to. So I encourage anybody out there who may have heard that, check with your job. There's a program called EAP that most jobs do provide. A lot of city jobs provide it,
Mhm.
and it's completely confidential. I've talked to people at my personal company who have been hesitant to try because they don't want people at the job knowing about their personal struggles.
Yes.
But the EAP program has nothing to do with your job. What it is an outsourced resource where they connect with either a healthcare provider or a university. Mine is through Penn Behavioral Health. And University of Penn will then connect me with therapists in my neighborhood. And what happens is my job contributes money to pay for that, but it has nothing to do with me revealing my information, my struggles, whatever is personal in my family to them. So I encourage people to try the EAP program and reach out to other organizations. I have a shirt on for Walk to Fight Suicide,
Mhm.
the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They've been extremely helpful because they've allowed me to go along with like their walks. They've allowed me to like come out to different things that they have going on in the community. And finally, I would just say therapy, individual therapy, in extension to it being connected from EAP. I just heavily encourage people to try therapy. You're getting a chance to speak to someone who is not attached to your journey, where they don't have to benefit or lose based on what you share with them, but they
Mhm.
give you an honest opinion about what they're hearing, what they're interpreting that you're sharing. One last thing I do have to say, journaling. For me, writing in my journal changed everything. It helped me to get things off my chest. It helped me to talk to God about things that were struggles, but it also improved my ability to talk with my therapist more honestly
Mhm.
and to just process things and look at my journal as a growth chart of where I've been over the years and things that I've wrestled with over the years and have overcome and still wrestle with. There's healing as a process.
It is a process and it comes in so many different forms. Um, I really appreciate your sharing. And we're going to be hearing a little bit more about that because I wanted to, I entitled this one, The Surviving Family's Response and Perspective for a Reason. It's sort of like, how people, the broken vernacular would be, why you putting your mouth on something you don't know what you're talking about? You know what I mean? Like, stay out of grown folk business, stay in your lane. And so what happens is that you have people on the outside looking in, deciding what your journey should be like. And because it's an individual journey, I love the fact that you said, and you gave a beautiful timeline, and thank you for that, that it looks different and looked different on certain days for you. But you, as the brother, he was a coworker or a fellow student or a fellow classmate, a son, you know what I mean? A neighbor, right? So he wore different hats. So for you, as the brother, to say, but you know what, this is through my lens is so important. And so I appreciate that. We're going to definitely bring you back on to talk a little bit more. I want to honor your what you've said so far. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're going to. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, good brother. We're going to move to Miss Linda Diaz. I'm going to read her bio. It says here that Linda Diaz is the CEO and founder of Lauryn's Law Incorporated, a 501c nonprofit organization. On February 16th, 2013, Linda's family forever changed as Linda's 15-year-old daughter, Lauryn, left by suicide. Unable to grieve in private, Linda clearly saw the effect Lauryn's suicide had on many others' lives. It was overwhelming as one of Lauryn's best friends, 14 years old, survived a suicide attempt, and a second 13-year-old survived 2 suicide attempts. The heart-wrenching question became clear. What are we missing in our youth? In May 2013, Linda began speaking out publicly in order to educate communities on bullying and youth mental health awareness. The closed doors, staggering silence, and increase in youth suicide led Linda, to become a voice for our youth with Maryland legislation in support of required youth mental health training. The result? 2 laws were passed in support of youth behavioral wellness training in Maryland schools. Linda's advocacy has led to HB 0947, which is Lauryn's Law, signed into law in 2015, as well as HB 0920, Lauryn's Law 2, signed into law in 2017. Through Lauryn's Law, Linda continues to partner with legislation in the DMV area on laws, as well as the Maryland State Department of Education in support of youth voices. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on, and it's such an honor to have you. I digress immediately and get out your way. All yours, Mama.
Thank you, Ericka. You don't need to get out of my way.
Oh, no.
You don't need to get out of my way.
Muting out now.
You're good. Well, thank you for having me. And Ihsan, it's a pleasure to be on with you. And thank you for walking through yet another trigger that sets you off whenever you attend an event or speak out. It's very triggering to us who have who walk in our grief. And and if I can piggyback off of what Ihsan said, is I had 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter is 10 years older than Lauryn. And when we lost Lauryn, my daughter ended up moving out of Maryland and moving to Pennsylvania because she couldn't even stand being in the same state without her sister. Mental health is something that has been around for many years. There are many different books that have been written on it. There are many different psychologists, psychiatrists, many clinicians, whether they're therapists or not. There are so many books that are out that have been written and authored, with regards to many stories of individuals and our loss and suicide, from suicide being a ritual for certain countries, and suicide, of course, not being a ritual, unfortunately, but being the avenue of where individuals who can no longer live with the mental pain that they are struggling with, and they can't handle it anymore and decide to leave by suicide. I may concentrate on youth, but I help all genres. So the youngest child that I've been able to assist to survive through suicidal ideation is 5 years old. So, one of the things that, I have done since 2013 is I've taken continuing education credits. I have become QPR instructor certified. I provide community-based training. I provide certified training. I partnered with MSDE in order to get 65 personnel in the state of Maryland to become Gatekeeper suicide prevention trained, so that they can actually provide the trainings in the schools, in the communities, with their families, at events, wherever it is that they need to be able to spread the awareness, they can actually do it. You know, what I have learned in, you know, in my 8.5 years since I lost my daughter, is that everyone is so ashamed. Adults are so ashamed of what they're going through. And there are two different statements that I wish would disappear. And one of those statements is children should be seen, not heard. And the second statement is don't tell anybody outside our home our family business. That was something that I heard, and I'm 53. That is not what I raised my kids doing. And I was very nice when I asked other individuals not to shush my kids. So my kids have always been able to communicate with me. With that said, I still wasn't even aware because I was so ignorant about mental health. No matter how much I love my children, no matter how endearing I was, absolutely ignorant. Might as well have been walking through life with blinders on, because mental illness is real. Depression is real. Anxiety, PTS. PTS is not only for veterans. You know, children who live through bullying suffer PTS. Children who live through domestic violence, or or physical or mental abuse in the home, outside the home, they suffer PTS and anxiety, severe depression. You know, so in my journey, children's voices are not being heard. And the reason why I concentrate on youth, the reason why I want to help to change laws and provide youth the ability to be able to stand up, to not fear their caregivers, their parents, their schools, to be able to share what it is that they are going through. Because keeping them silent and telling them that what they're going through doesn't matter, and telling them that they're too young to think that they have anything to stress over, or that they need to mind their business, and all of the different things that these children are living through. It doesn't start because they turn 12 years old, 13, 14, and have a social media account. All of the torment that they go through mentally begins at a very, very young age. So a child's mind, their brain, is constantly growing and changing. And with that is the chemical balance in the brain. And the more torment that we cause them, the more that we eat away at those brain cells that are causing these children to start fighting suicidal thoughts at such young ages. Now, I said I've been able to help. The youngest child that I've been able to help is 5 years old with suicidal ideation. But there have been many children, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, that have died by suicide. They didn't attempt, they died. They don't have social media accounts, so we can't say that social media was causing this. Suicide was an issue long before social media was an issue. We went from bullying physically to bullying online. So we went from, being able to communicate in person to communicating online. These children, they're our future. If we don't help these children to be able to find the answers within themselves, to be able to know that it's okay not to be okay, to be able to seek help if they're being molested, if they were abandoned, if they were living at home because their parents who are suffering from an addiction left them at home with no food. All of these different things that these children are going through are traumatic. More events that they go through, the more that they build, that the events build up and cause more depression to succumb into them. And then they fall into the darkness and the abyss, and they fall away from the light. Underserved communities, BIPOC communities, I can't sit here and tell you how many individuals I have helped that are people of color, where I have sat here and heard individuals literally come out of their mouths and say, there's nothing wrong with my child. Anxiety is only for white people. And it's 8.5 years later. Ihsan and I, we attend events. We go to events. We started nonprofits because of the fact that we know that there are individuals out there who don't know where their resources are. So we provide the resources. I post them on my website. I share them on social media all the time. And believe it or not, because someone doesn't want someone else to know what's going on, no matter what I post on social media, people will still reach out to me and send me a direct private message. And while I say I understand what it is to suffer and to suffer in silence, what I don't understand is that 1 out of every 5 people suffer. There is not one person that has not gotten to a point in their life where they feel like they just can't get up. And the good Lord knows he can put on our plates what we can handle. I'm actually a little full. I've asked him to kind of lean back a little bit and give me some time, but he just doesn't listen to me, but that's okay. That's a discussion for when I'm blessed to be able to see him and reunite with my loved ones. But what I can't say enough of is everybody suffers. Everyone suffers. We can't keep sitting over here seeking help and then going on social media and saying, thank God, he answered my prayers. And, my family was going through something and, he delivered us and he helped us. Well, realistically speaking, it wasn't God who helped them. It was the resources that they tapped into. It was the clinician. It was the therapist. It was the life coach. It was the person that somebody else reached out to and said, my friend, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, aunt is suffering. Can you help them? Can you give us somebody to help them? Yes. Praise God. Thank God for being there. Never lose your spirituality and never lose your faith, but always remember that there is a physical body also there that has to do the actual work to help you. And if we keep being silent, not me, I started my nonprofit because other organizations used to tell me what I could say and what I could not say about my own daughter's suicide. So I started my nonprofit because children's voices needed to be heard. Unfortunately, I need to get a little angry sometimes because if I can't get angry to support these children won't see tomorrow. And guess what? The more children that don't see tomorrow, the more tomorrow is not going to exist for us adults. They are the future. And that is why I do what I do. Ihsan does what he does. We speak out. And as you heard from Ihsan suffers. He struggles. It's very, very difficult for him. I'm not saying it's not difficult for me, but I'm able to compartmentalize a little bit more where Ihsan physically is still carrying that loss. And I know my daughter is the same way. My daughter carries that loss. It is very difficult. So, and I applaud Ihsan because it's very difficult for anybody to be able to lose a loved one and then to have to sit there and relive not just the pain of that loss. You relive what he relives, what his brother was going through. I relive what Lauryn was going through, and what a lot of people may not know is I actually found Lauryn. I had to do CPR. I had to manage to cut her down in order to do CPR. I had to dial 911. And believe it or not, I really don't remember it at all. I don't remember it, but that is one of the gifts that the good Lord gave me by compartmentalizing my brain and allowing me to Rolodex my pain and not ignoring it. Because if I was ignoring it, I wouldn't be here speaking. But that's how I live with my pain. I live one-on-one. I can cry. I can go to the grocery store and people will see me crying and people will walk by me. They have no idea. I could probably be dying of a heart attack or something, and they just completely walk right by me. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because where my triggers lie and I have to cry, I will cry. And it doesn't matter where I am. I allow my release, because if I don't allow my release, then it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And I don't like my grief building up. I'm already carrying a heavy burden as I walk through life. I don't want to carry my burden and then others' burdens on top of mine as I assist families who reach out to me in crisis. So it's very important to understand mental health is serious. Being aware is, it's a given. It's like breathing. If I were to have a discussion with someone about cancer, I can guarantee you 10 more people will join that conversation. When someone is brave enough to ask me about what I might be wearing that's related to suicide, I will have a giant circle around me. No one will engage in the conversation. Everyone will walk around me as if I had the plague. And that's not good. That's not good, because an individual with cancer suffers from depression. You have Alzheimer's and dementia. Those are both mental illnesses. You have an individual with a heart condition or diabetes or a kidney or a liver condition. They suffer from depression. They suffer from suicidal ideation, but we will only talk to them because of cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, but don't want to hear anything about what they could possibly be going through mentally. And the sad thing is that this is why I concentrate on youth, because the dysfunction that we have learned and the dysfunction that was passed down to us is still being passed down. And in order to create a better tomorrow, we really need to be able to start with our kids. I mean, I would want a better tomorrow. And if kids will give us a better tomorrow, then we should support kids. And then those kids are going to grow up, and then we need to be able to teach them to pass that on. And they need to break the cycle of dysfunction and start passing the education on with regards to mental health. We can't make a better world alone. We really need everyone's voices. And, I will keep doing what I need to do. I will keep walking the walk, and I'll keep, talking and sharing until that time comes where I just can no longer keep doing it on my own. So Ihsan, thank you. And, Ericka, thank you so much for someone to have not been in our shoes, to take that mantle and actually do something is amazing. And, my hat's off to you, because we need everybody to do exactly what you're doing. Tomorrow would be so much better with so many more smiles if we had more individuals who didn't look down on an illness and triumphed to help us to deliver our messages.
It means so much coming from you. I thank you for that. You spoke to my heart on so many levels, and thank you for everything that you shared. I'm grateful, and my heart is full. I want to start with the fact that children are to be seen and not heard, and what stays in this house stays in this house. I really want you to kind of hone in on that just a wee bit more, because I don't know about Ihsan. Ihsan, if it's okay with him, I'll bring you in now as well. So we can kind of, we can chop it up, we can bust it up a little bit. And one of the things that was really, really important to me is that this is a laid back, comfortable, and safe environment. Really important to me. And that you feel loved and valued and heard.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you talked about, and Ihsan, I brought you in because I wonder if you too can relate to that, where what goes here stays here, and children to be seen and not heard. I want you both to kind of touch on what that looks like real time and what we can do. What can we do better? I want us to end on moments of hope. Really important to me that this remains full of hope. What can we do better? I know what we're missing, but what can we do better? Miss Linda, if you start in any sign, I'll have you.
I can tell you that in 8.5 years, hundreds of people, hundreds of family members that I've been able to assist. I probably heard that about a good 50 times myself, to include, there's nothing wrong with him or her. They just need to go get their butt beat one good time.
Okay, got
so
it.
It is amazing because you have so many blended families now. And it's even with blended families. No, they're not, they're not a part of our family, our household, mom or dad or stepdad or stepmom. Don't repeat what you hear when you go back to that other house. You keep that here, and the kid then, and when it comes to children who are caught up in the divorce and the divorce drama of individuals with regards to whomever. I mean, these children, it's 2021. These children are still being caught in these battles of divorce. I understand you don't want to be with the other one anymore. And you leave the person whom you've had a life with, that you had children with. That doesn't mean that those children also die with that relationship. You need to be able to make sure that you listen to them,
right,
and not discard them. And that comes from both sides. It's very, I've seen where it was very easy to dismiss the child and what the child wants. And it's very easy. And, the children attempt to try to say to their parents, this is what I'm thinking, this is what's in my mind, and they don't listen. Oh, it's what you want doesn't matter. It's what I want. I want custody. I want child support, or I want this one at my house and you can have that one.
And all along,
all of that. It does. It traumatizes these kids. And then these kids, I'm noticing they are vaping. They are smoking marijuana. They are sneaking beers. The kids are becoming full substance abusers by like the age of 11.
Miss Linda, if I'm gonna have you just put a pin in there just for one moment. I want to respect what it is that you've said so far. I want to give Ihsan an opportunity to just kind of jump in on that particular point in terms of what we can be doing better. But I hear what you're saying and how it's all connected. When we don't hear, when we see them and tell them that they are to be seen and not heard, and why that ends up impacting them in other ways. So I appreciate your insight pertaining to that. Ihsan, if you can, what can we do better? What is it that you'd like us to see improving community-wise, communities of color? What are we missing?
First, I want to throw out a disclaimer. My mom is going to watch this video. She was going to be on here live, because what I want to share, actually, I don't want you offended by what I'm saying, but I want to respect what we're talking about things going on in the home. When I was young, I remember I was like 17. I just got my junior license or whatever. I got in some trouble. I took my mentor's car, and he was on vacation. He was loving mentor. He really treated me like a son. And I took his car without his permission. And whether it was karma or whatever, while I was on my way to take his car back before his vacation ended, somebody drove through a red light and hit me. The long story short, I wound up having, his mercy was to just have me pay off the car, but he also, or work off the car doing like some chores, but he also wanted me to speak to a counselor. And I remember he sent the counselor to the house, and it was really uncomfortable for me because I didn't feel like I had an opportunity to speak to this counselor as honest as I wanted. As I started speaking, I started crying, and my mom interrupted and said, he's just acting or whatever, and didn't even let me go through with the therapy. And I remember, and mom, I love you, but I wound up having like these feelings like I can't even get this off. Like, this is not, I don't know if depression was showing up at that time or whatever, but like Miss Linda was talking about, like when people have cancer, they have depression, all these things. When people have any behaviors that they're just exhibiting, whether it be addiction, whether it be sexual addiction, gambling, whatever people are doing, they also may be dealing with depression, and they're buffering it with certain things. But it's important that we learn our voice. And Miss Linda was talking about children learning their voice. It's important that we have it, even if the parents don't agree with it. And me being a parent now, I realize like it is a struggle to allow my children to speak instead of me diagnosing for them what they ought to say. You really have to listen, and not, you have to respect what they're saying, even if you disagree with it. Because one of the things that I've learned is to let my children have their voice. Even if it winds up being something that's disrespectful, I'd rather them be honest with me and we can work through the other things. Because that's the same grace God gives. God rather us come to him real than to fake and just say things that sound like we want him to hear or we think he wants to hear, rather than him hearing, God, I messed up. God, I really don't want to actually make the good decision. So I respect when my children come to me and tell me the truth, even if it's something I'll be disappointed in, so we can work through it. So what I think we can do as communities, as parents, and even as children, one, is a process to forgive for me for moments I felt neglect or abuse from my own experience being raised. I have to forgive my parents for what they didn't know or what they may have been doing out of their own depression and their own trauma, because this stuff is passed down. This stuff is passed down from slavery. This stuff is passed down from Adam and Eve. There's just so many levels of where stuff is passed down. But then also as a parent myself, I have to fight through respecting my children and letting their voices be heard, even when they're different ages, they have different tendencies. I have I have two boys and I have a girl. They're different in the way that they just move, the way that they think. They're different in the ways that they're developing, the way they're experiencing life. Something hit me last night while watching a 9/11 documentary. My children don't even know that experience. That's something that's like history to them, but that's something that I live. So I had to be mindful that what made me think a certain way is not what's making them think a certain way. They haven't experienced or seen or heard certain things that come to mind immediately for me, and I have to be more patient with them. So as a community, I think that it's important that we listen to our children while listening without a urgency to speak to every word that they said. Really actively listen to them and ask more questions that encourage them to have their voice, encourage them to speak up, not encouraging them to speak low. My daughter speaks very quiet. She's an excellent student, straight A student at Masterman, but she struggles to speak loud. And I always encourage her, use your voice, use your voice. And I encourage the kids to be open and honest. And this is not for me to say I do it right, but I encourage other people to learn from what does work. And what does work is using your voice, whether you're an adult, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a child, your voice matters.
Yes.
And I encourage people to use it, and I encourage other people to use your ears to listen to the voices of others.
Ooh, you're blessing me good. Ooh, that's good. That's a put me in ham and be free, be flat right there. That's a dancing moment is what that is. Yeah, that's real good word. That's a good word, because I believe that sound, there's power in our voice. I believe that my belief system is that our creator spoke the world into existence. And so that gives us the ability to be able to interrupt things in the natural by what we say. And so I like what Miss Linda said, and Ihsan, I really appreciate that last point. I really appreciate it, because it brings me into this point where we have to have a balance. And I think that's what we're lacking in communities of color. and even in communities of faith, we're lacking a balance because, and I wish I had an opportunity to meet your mom, and much love and respect to her as well. I look forward to the day that I can meet her in person and show her some love and respect too. But I understand, now as a mom, I understand our parents gave us what they had, and people
Mhm.
can only give you what they have. And it's and there's some things my mom would say. She'd say, "You won't understand until you have your own." Oh my goodness, I can so relate to that now. And then there are other things that happen where we mutter underneath our breath, I can't wait till I'm grown. Boy, I'm about to be out this job. I'm not going to do that. My kids don't ever have to worry about that. And we end up doing and saying the same things. And so these types of conversations, God, I thank you. These kinds of conversations give us permission to breathe, to just relax, and not have to dot our I's and cross our T's and be honest
Mhm.
about, you know what? I probably could have said that differently. You know what? I wasn't even thinking, that's what grandma did. That's what great grandmother did. You're
Yep.
absolutely right. You know what? I never considered that point of view. Enlighten me. And then we wait. And then when these become honest, open dialogues and teaching moments, when we see
Mhm.
teaching moments, not just to teach, but to be on the receiving side of the lesson, because
Yes,
it's okay to not have all the answers. The
it
pressure to
is.
have all the answers. Forget that. Those days are over. You know what? I don't know. Enlighten me. And I think
Mhm.
that frees people up. I do want to give an opportunity for our attendees to, if you have any questions for Ihsan and for Miss Linda, we're doing wonderful on time. If you have any questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to jump in there and just let us know. And yes, I'm adjusting myself as usual. These are the things that keep me humble. Okay. But if you have questions, don't hesitate to go in there and or just comments or anything like that. One other thing I wanted to say to both of you is I'm finding that community is so important, whether it be
Mhm.
faith-based or just we all love hip hop, we all love, to dance, we all love to do art, we all love poetry. Ihsan, I'll start with you this time. I know that you're involved in the arts, and we actually know some of the same people that are involved in the arts. Please tell me what does art do for you? How does being involved in the arts liberate you?
It gives me the voice that we were just talking about. For me, like when I got, well, it also lines up with my faith. I was doing music when I was in college. I started
Mhm.
like doing music that was like street music, about the traditional stuff, sex, drugs, party life. And then in 2003, I met the Lord, and my music started reflecting that. So that's where purpose came from, like making music about life, and also lining up with the scripture, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. What it does for me is it gives me a voice. It allows me to speak honestly about the things that I used to be ashamed of. I used to be ashamed coming from an experience where I was valedictorian, and I was like this well regarded student coming out of Philly, and like high expectations for me to go on to great things, and I wound up taking steps backwards, and I wound up like wilding out in college. Music and also my faith started allowing me to speak about those experiences without hiding them, without shame, saying, I've done this wrong, I've made this wrong decision,
Mhm.
and God has given me grace, mercy, another chance. He's given me another day. And then through it, even the bad things that have happened for me have wound up having some fruit come from them because of his grace. I could have gotten AIDS instead of having a baby. There's mercy in that situation. I could have gone to jail instead. I just have this memory. Actually, it's interesting. I always think about Memorial Day. There was a chance where I was almost shot if I stayed somewhere 5 minutes prior.
Mhm.
I mean, 5 minutes longer than I was there. And my mom actually helped save my life. She called me in the house, and whatever. There was just some tragedy. But if you look back on certain things, even some of the things that were disappointments at the time, if you look back, you see like that was actually the seed that something major grew out of. And
Mhm.
God in his providence allow those types of things. So my music allows me to have a voice for that. And it also serves the same way I said as my journal does, where it's a growth chart. I can listen to music I made years ago, and I can realize, like, this same type of feeling I had at that time, whether it be agony or whether it even be encouragement, it's reflecting in this song I made in 2007 and it's speaking to me now in 2021. But it also is true to me. So nobody can take it from me. It's not me rehearsing a song that I can't actually identify with the lyrics and singing it out of repetition. No, this is my truth. And then I'm blessed with other people say they like it or they love it or they can relate to it or they appreciate it. Like those things mean a lot to me. And also even with painting, like when I look at this painting, the guy who made this, his name is Amir. They call him a miracle. When he painted this, it was at a local library event we had in memory of or in honor of suicide prevention and mental health. And he painted that. And I remember looking at him painting it saying, "You brought my brother back to life." Like the depth of what he painted my brother's face with, just, I said in the moment, I just was crying. Art does that. Whether it be painting, whether it be dance, whether it be whatever, it gives you a chance to be free and just liberated in whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking and all of that. So that's what art has done for me. It's given me my own voice to be true, but it's also helped me to appreciate the stories others are telling through their own expression of art.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. I love that. I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Linda back. Give me one moment. I see you
I have
got.
a question for her too, if I'm allowed to ask
Oh
it.
no, please, by all means.
Okay.
I will mute out. Go ahead.
So Ms. Linda, you mentioned about like being able to carry your own thing, like you're dealing with the loss of Lauryn, but you're also seen as an advocate for mental health and suicide prevention. So I'm sure people call you and don't tap into the other resources. What do you do to make sure that you have enough resource for yourself, whether it be time or just mental capacity? What do you do? What do you practice on a practical level to help you make sure you're okay?
Uh, I'm gonna piggyback on your journal. I
Okay.
journal. That's one thing that I do. I do so many different things because I carry so many burdens with me. So I journal. I love writing journal. I love writing down in my journal because um, it allows me to go back and remember certain things. Because being able to do what I'm doing also removes certain memories where I can actually forget certain things that I could have, that I have done in the last 8.5 years. And I go back and I read, just to kind of see where my mind was a year ago, 2 years ago, and things like that. So one is journal. I also like motorcycles. So I ride a motorcycle. It's very, being out on my motorcycle allows me the tranquility that my mind needs in order to be able to reach a level of zen and be able to stay calm. I also read. I love reading. It's something that has always been something that a part of me. Reading has always been, I don't want to say fundamental, but I can get lost in the books that I'm reading. And some books that I read, believe it or not, are true stories of individuals and their life's journeys with regards to substance abuse or addiction or mental health. And one of my other favorite things is just being with my oldest daughter and my granddaughter, and loving the fact that my 12-year-old granddaughter is doing exactly what my daughter did to me, except I think she's worse than my daughter, but it's very, very comical for me to see this. And so I have different vices that I use for myself. And when it comes to others, that's the same thing that I want others to know. I want others to be able to understand the different things that I do for myself, because self-care is important. And if I do self-care for me, they can do self-care for themselves, because then they in turn try to help others, while they're trying to, walk through the journey of whatever their life is right now. So I literally preach what I talk. Those are my vices.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to go over. I just wanted to say the reason I asked that is because a friend of mine told me about how we're healers. And I think
Mhm.
that it's important. Tomorrow is Suicide Awareness Day. And I remember 2 years ago, September 10th, 2019, there were two suicides on that day, and they were from people who were advocates for mental health and suicide prevention. There was this guy named Gregory Els. He was the head of the University of Penn psychology department, and he took his life on Suicide Awareness Day. And then there was this pastor of a mega church out in California who did the same thing. And it just hit me like these are people who were helping other people, and maybe everybody comes to them with it, and it clashes with the things that they already carry from their personal life and becomes overwhelming. So I just thought it was decent that you said that you do things for self-care, because I found them to be extremely important for me, because people coming to you with things can actually trigger you back to
Yes.
thinking about things you already are dealing with even more. So
Oh
thank you for
yeah,
that. Sorry
it
for that.
is.
And I appreciate you
And,
and Eric.
no, and Ihsan, to help you out in the future, whenever you do an event, if you're going to speak at an event, if you're going to attend an event, um, what I would tell you that you should do also is, if you're going to speak at an event in the afternoon, make sure that you take that morning to yourself and do self-care. And don't allow, if you need to prepare for it, prepare up to the day before and give yourself the morning before the event to actually allow yourself to release. Cry, let it out, let that pain out, let that hurt out, let that love fill you. And then by the time you get to your event, when you're done and you come back home, those burdens will also be less. I used to do that a lot, as far as not realizing what I could do beforehand and going to an event. So if I have an event and it's at 10 o'clock in the morning, the evening before, I completely do absolutely nothing to allow my heart to do what it needs to do. And so that by the time the morning comes, I'm refreshed. When I go to the event and I end up listening to others, I don't bring their burdens with me. So it's pretty, the load is light when I leave. So and plus it also helps you with triggers when you get there. You might see somebody that looks like your brother or sounds like your brother. There's so much, but yeah, if you ever need me, you reach out to me. I'm here for you.
Thank you. I appreciate the same here.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful. I know my place. I know my lane. This is a good time for me to stay out of grown folks' business, okay? I think it's so beautiful. This is a blessing. This is a blessing. I wanted to just take a moment, and with permission, I'm sharing one of the comments, so I'm reading it. It says that this has been a great round table. I lost my son Scott to suicide in 1996. He is
Oh,
forever 17. I went on
mhm.
to become a licensed professional counselor and mental health advocate. I truly believe that we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. Stigma continues to be a huge stumbling block for different reasons for different people. One more thing, everyone needs to remember this. Don't ever think such a tragedy could never happen to you or yours. There, but for the grace of God, go I. You each are a beacon of light. Thank you from Texas. Blessings, blessings, and thank you
Oh,
so much for
thank
sharing.
you.
This
Thank
person
you.
says that they have a foundation. Her name is Ms. Patricia Todd. I did ask for permission to share. She gave me the green light. The
Oh,
name of her
thank you.
foundation is Walking for Scott. So what I'll do is I'll include that in the comments and also in the description box. We're here to share.
Wonderful.
No big eyes, no
Yes.
little U's. I do not like division at all. We are so much better together. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I apologize, my water. Please forgive me, my water should have been a lot closer than it really was. So I was going to say thank you again pardon me, I want to be respectful of the time. Oh, we're doing wonderful in time. If there are no other questions or closing concerns, it's like church. We don't have to go long to go strong. We don't have to be lengthy to be heard. My husband would say, if you pray often, you don't have to pray long. But I do want to take a moment to just touch on just a few things, if I may, as it relates to suicide.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I really wanted to say was language matters.
Mhm.
I want to seize this moment just to say that language matters. So say, for example, and this is for the general audience or just for people who are just not familiar with or have not yet had an opportunity to have formal training or even volunteer training.
Mhm.
AFSP, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they do an amazing Talk Saves Lives, which is an intro to suicide prevention. I'm a part of the Greater Philadelphia chapter, and I'm very new to their team, but I'm a part of the Education Committee and Speakers Bureau. And one of the things that they're in place to do that I love is not talk at you, but talk to you.
Mhm.
I love that they operate in love because
Mhm.
people like Ihsan said, and even Miss Linda, they are entering in different stages of the loss, if at all. And sometimes when we show up, when we're helping people, we think it's all about us when it isn't. It's all about that person and how they're feeling. And just like how we may be tempted to micromanage our children and their responses, we do that sometimes to peers. We do
Mhm.
that to loved ones. Girl, you're going to be all right. Man, chin up. All right, stay up. All right, I'm going to talk to you later. Like we have all of these vernaculars, all of these things that we say when in reality we're brushing people off without even realizing it. So we would encourage the three of us that are sharing tonight would say, ask someone how they're doing, wait for a response, and then give them permission to feel. Give them permission to be human, to express how they're doing that day. And instead of brushing them off, this is so important. Say, you know what? It sounds like you're going through a tough time right now. Um, this is a little bit outside of my scope. It's okay to say that's a little bit, I'm a little uncomfortable with having that discussion, but I care about you so much. Maybe we can call a crisis hotline together. How do you feel about that? Don't tell them, ask, wait. They may prefer to text, right? They may say, well, actually, I want to see my doctor. Oh, okay. Well, you'll be all right when you get to your appointment on Tuesday. Instead of saying, oh, you have an appointment on Tuesday? Do you have a way there? Well, you know what? I lost my trans pass at the beginning of the week. That's what got me all hyped. That's what got me so upset. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm actually off the afternoon. I can take you to your appointment, or I have a little extra. I can slide something on your trans pass. Like just basics. Instead of giving people band-aid, broad responses, you're going to be okay. How do you know that? Well, you'll just get your prescription refilled. Well, I actually just lost my job, so I no longer have coverage. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we
Mhm.
even do that. This whole I'm going to tell you how you ask you how you feel and then tell you how to feel is something that we need to improve on as well. Also, the language of suicide, we're going to remove the negative connotation instead of saying committed suicide. Committed has a negative connotation. It's sort of like someone who may have consider someone who committed a crime. You don't say, I committed cancer or I committed diabetes or I committed high blood pressure. No. Instead, we say, die by suicide. Um, and when we say, if they attempted suicide, we don't say that it's a failure. It's not a passing grade.
Yes.
We have to be mindful of our language, that even our
Mhm.
language is that of love, attempted. And so these are just different things that come across in the intro to suicide prevention and talk saves lives. And there are other things. I do want Miss Linda to please touch on the gatekeeper training. That's something that even I'm interested in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm only recently hearing about gatekeeper training.
Yes, it's QPR, uh,
Mhm.
Gatekeeper Suicide Prevention Training. And what I am is I am an instructor. So I can I can provide a certificate. So for example, with Lauryn's Law version 2, where all staff and faculty members and all of the schools in the state of Maryland are required to have annual suicide prevention training every year before December 1st. There are organizations that may actually charge for that. So what I would do for QPR training or suicide prevention training is I provide the tools. I do an hour presentation with regards to suicide prevention and awareness, providing tools, giving them pamphlets, giving them the ability to access the whatever information, because sometimes I'll do a video that I can't really share outside of suicide prevention, or it's outside of my class, but it is literally going and providing a certificate for at least 90 minutes of having someone in my circle to teach them suicide prevention. Awesome. How to be able to ask the difficult questions, how to be able to know the signs. If you, like you said, if they hear the struggle, can I walk? Can I be there for you? Can I help you get there? Learning how to deliver, the question or the answer or offer the help without making the person feel like it's a burden for you to want to help them get better, so, right. But doing the QPR training and I can definitely send you some information and some material, on that, because it's great. It's an 8-hour course that you could take to become an instructor trainer, where you can go in the community. You can even do it at AFSP events and things like that. It's a little bit more informative than Talk Saves Lives, because sure. I think I was the first person that did Talk Saves Lives in like 2016. But it's definitely a really important tool. It also, with the doctor in Washington State that actually started this program, it's very, very informative. And it also comes with the ability to have, if you become an instructor, you have the tools. You have, you can have it in multiple languages. You can have the availability to be able to, to access the information. And it is amazing. It's a little bit more informative. It has a lot more tools than Assist and Talk Saves Lives and things like that. But it's definitely something that's worthy, because that's what I do in the communities, in the schools, in the what do you call it? The workstations that I actually provide when I do events.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Ihsan, I want to highlight your Wednesday night events. You get a chance to interview other people and highlight other mental health advocates and have these types of panel discussions. Please share about that. I would love people to get more involved in supporting you.
Okay. Well, we at this time, we haven't started our new season, but the beginning of the pandemic last year, myself and Eric Marsh Jr. Eric Marsh is one of the executive board members of MBKCares. He and I were doing these library events along with the other board members, but we started deciding we started discussing how can we help people right now while we're all on quarantine. And we decided to just go live on a Wednesday. I believe it was in April or March of last year. We just started going live on Facebook using Zoom and talking about mental health and suicide awareness and just different things that were affecting us at the time while it was raw at the very beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. And we called those discussions Wellness Wednesday. And we started having different guests come on from the political realm, law enforcement, mental health, just people with different levels of expertise or experience to talk about what they're going through, what they also have provided to the community as resource. And it became a very necessary discussion, and also one that was well supported. We were able to reach thousands of people using it. Every week we had between like 300 to 600 people who were tuning in on Facebook Live to hear us talk about things. And it was humbling. It was very encouraging at the same time, because we all were very uncertain last year. At one point when the pandemic first hit, I thought the world was going to end real soon. And I think a lot of people were worried. People were losing loved ones. People were losing their health. People were losing jobs, income, all kinds of things. And it became an opportunity to encourage each other and also to just talk about what we were experiencing all in unison. And we're going to get back to doing that. Eric Marsh has recently started his own nonprofit organization, the Father Circle, and he's also going on to do his own podcast, the Father Circle. So we're all doing our own things right now, but when this season comes back for that, we will return to doing the Wellness Wednesday discussion.
Awesome. And are there any other organizations that you'd like to highlight or any final
Absolutely.
thoughts before we close? Please, you have the floor, good brother.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, it walked to fight suicide. October 3rd, this Sunday, sorry, not this Sunday, but Sunday, October the 3rd, we're going to have a walk at the Art Museum called the Out of the Darkness Walk. You can register for that walk on the AFSP website, afsp.org, and then choose the Philly Walk. Registration is free. You can always make a donation if you choose to. A lot of people who have lost loved ones walk in memory of people, or they walk in just support of the organization and the cause. I encourage everybody to come out, just as you heard about like the Susan G. Komen things for like cancer. There's walks for mental health and suicide that are very important. I encourage people to check out what AFSP offers. I currently sit on the board with AFSP as the co-chair for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the Philadelphia chapter, along with Tia Jones,
Mhm.
and also Ericka. You're part of it. We're both new to it, but it's an organization that I think it's done a lot of good things, and it's allowing itself to expand and offer resources to communities of color and to other communities as well, to people who have sexual identity,
Mhm.
not issues, but who have concerns with mental health with
Mhm.
their own identity, their own community. And we provide resources for that as well, just to support people. I said to start off this conversation that none of us are exempt from the human experience, and that's true. And none of us are any better than each other or any worse than
Right.
each other. We need each other. So that organization, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and then I encourage people to follow MBK Cares, which is my organization. My brother's Keeper Cares. All the acronyms are MBK Cares. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and the website www.mbkcares.com. I appreciate you, and thank you, Linda, as well, and our guests. Thank you.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Sweet that dismount. I tell you, even though I put this in writing today when I was trying to help get the word out about this session, which has completely blessed me. And I'm so honored to have you. And Miss Linda, I'm so honored to have you. I don't think you guys realize how much it means to me that you would spend that you would spend this hour and a half with me. It means everything to me. I don't take your time for granted. I don't take your expertise and your experience, your warmth, your kindness, your professionalism, and your approachability. Thank you to infinity. One of the things about you, Ihsan, um, when you took the stage in 2019, that was my first Out of Darkness walk, as first time team captain too for Team Inspiration with E. When you took the stage, all of us in my team, we said, it was like a collective sigh, and we said, representation matters. When I saw you and I heard you, I saw myself. And I saw a lot of the experiences. And I saw how many times we want to have that conversation, but we don't. So what you do
Mhm.
is major. And I pray a supernatural portion of strength that God would bless you and continue to just make your ways straight and encouraged, and that you are infused with the same level of hope that you're giving others, because you are making an incredible difference. And AFSP is an amazing organization. I don't just like, I love the people that we get to do life with in that organization. And so they are the better for having you as well. So I just want to
Ericka,
salute you.
Ericka, I want to thank you. Before you even said that, I was thinking about that same moment I met you at that walk. I think it was 2019 walk.
Mhm.
You encouraged me, and I don't think that you have any idea. Like, it was really an overwhelming day for me. I prepared to say something and didn't even say what I prepared. I was just overwhelmed by thinking about my brother. We were about to walk, then being overwhelmed by the crowd and many stories.
Mhm.
But one thing I want to encourage you, first of all, you followed up on what you said. Like, many people came up and said you did a good job or this and that. Some things are like, just when somebody says God bless you, but they're not really thinking I want God to bless you. It was just said out of
Mhm.
like out of repetition, you came up and you encouraged me and you said you wanted to connect. And not only did you say it, you followed up. I remember you contacted me shortly after. And I was humbled by it, but I also was encouraged by it because it was something genuine about your interaction with me that I really appreciated and I needed it. Really, you have no idea how much it helped me that day just to feel encouraged when I was actually very heavy getting off that stage. So thank you for that. And whatever you do with those kind of things, I'm sure they benefit people with your prayers, with everything that you're doing with your everyday life. And I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the encouragement. I receive it. I receive it. Thank you so much. I'm not gonna cry because it's not as pretty as Beyonce's, I promise you. So I'm gonna reel it in. I'm gonna reel it in. God bless you. Thank you for your kindness and thank you for speaking life over me. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Miss Linda,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
Thank you so much again for being here. What are your
Thank
final
you.
thoughts and where can people find you? How can they support you, please, before we head on out?
Well, they can find me anywhere. All of my social media is Lauryn's Law, and no one can look for Linda Diaz, but they can
Mhm.
find Lauryn's Law everywhere. And of course, if they need anything, they can reach out to me, message me. They can go to my website at laurenslaw.org, and they can even send me a message, through the website. And while I'm here, I want to take the chance to say that, I want to say thank you to you again for everything that you do. Thank you, Ihsan. I am so sorry for the loss of your brother. And I can only send you my love and tell you and lift you in prayer and keep you in my thoughts, you and your mom. And I will definitely, support your organization. And it's really important to really share other organizations and shed a light on it. And there's Be My Keepers Foundation is another organization. It's a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. by Lisa Daughtry, who is, of course, a mother of color who lost her only son, her only child,
Mm.
to suicide. And she provides the same assistance and the same clarity and thoughtfulness with regards to sharing her story and spreading awareness through her organization and her story with her son. And then I would also like to share the David J. Cobb Foundation, and they're in Virginia. And again, this is another mother, Kimberly Fleming, who lost, again, her only child to suicide. And I say these, I'm speaking these two organizations because they lost their only children, and they still find, through the pain, the ability to be able to share and keep going. And I also want to say thank you to Patricia Todd and the viewers. I want to make sure that I never like to just share me. I like to share others, because I'm not the only one out here fighting. And 9 times out of 10, if somebody can't reach me, I've put out so many other organizations on my social media that it gives the ability for young men Ihsan's age to be able to reach out and be able to see what they can possibly do to make things better in their community, to keep an open dialogue, to be able to break that cycle of dysfunction and to create a better tomorrow together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to release a peace and blessing over you and all that you do. And I ask that God would just meet your needs supernaturally and to continue to provide your organization. And thank you for sharing and sharing the information of the other organizations. I'm going to get those links and put them in the description box because that sounds real YouTube-ish of me. Okay, did y'all catch that?
Yes.
Round 2 done. We're gonna get ready to head out. For those of you who tuned in tonight, thank you so much for being with us. We are grateful. We are better together. We learned about the importance of community, sharing resources, listening to our children, expressing ourselves through art, and giving ourselves permission to feel, but also leaving with full of hope, just like full of hope. I am infused in the better, and I hope that you are as well. Thank you so much for joining us. You all have a great night. We're going to ready to head out of here. Good night, y'all. Get
Thank
some rest.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
attendees. Thank you. I see your comments. Much love. God bless you. Thank you
Bless
all.
you
Take
too.
care, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.